Welcome to my Iron Maiden album ranking. The lovely Marina came all the way from Greece for the cover presentation today. Also my thanks go to Jan, the biggest Iron Maiden fan I know, for checking my script for any possible errors. This was an easy one, the only Iron Maiden album where I don't have any favourite songs. I could start a discussion about which songs are the dullest, but I'd rather not. It's one of their more progressive albums, darker than usual. The reincarnation of Benjamin Breek has a nasty riff at least, and was the best possible choice for single. I gave A Matter of Life and Death 3 more listens for this album ranking, but it didn't make a difference, the songs don't seem to stick with me. On their studio albums number 5, 6 and 7, Maiden were striving for more modern, well-produced, clean sounds. Number 8, No Prayer for the Dying, was a break away from that. The cover showed a rejuvenated Eddie bursting out of the grave to return from distant fantasy worlds back to the streets of London. But Iron Maiden were not the same band anymore they had been 10 years ago. Recording not on a fancy studio on the Bahamas, but simply in Steve's old barn, they cherished the idea to do something easier, but it didn't work well. Rock Hard magazine called the album uninspired and lackluster, and I could agree with them. At least No Prayer had a memorable single. Holy Smoke was fun with a capital F. Tail Gunner and Bring Your Daughter to the Slaughter were also enjoyable and remained in the live set for some time. My favourite songs here are the straight rocker Future Real, the short and sweet Lightning Strikes Twice, and the ending ballad Como Estáis Amigos, where Blaze puts a lot of feeling in his voice. I liked Blaze in Wolfsbane and owned several of their records already before he joined Maiden. He was the right guy in the wrong place, because the more epic stuff Maiden were famous for was not up his street.
It was then that things began to go seriously wrong.
After the surprisingly good start Blaze had had with the X Factor, there was a disastrous tour in much smaller venues than before, and involuntarily he provided proof that he couldn't sing every Bruce song as good as Bruce. Well, who could? From attending that tour, I remember how The Evil That Men Do was destroyed, for example. Bruce would return for the next studio album. Virtual 11 has a few disappointing tracks too, but in the first place I blame Blaze's departure on the gigs, not the album. The utterly brilliant title track is a classic, and I love Afraid to Shoot Strangers too. But the rest of the album contains too much average. For example, the single From Here to Eternity, a catchy sing-along tune Maiden could write with their hands tied to their backs. You have to consider that this was in 1992 the first album Maiden produced primarily with the compact disc market in mind. In the 80s, you were restricted to LP length, 8 songs, 40 minutes. Now you could put over 60 minutes on a CD, which led many bands to include unnecessary fillers on otherwise good albums. Fear of the Dark sounds like songs that would have become single B-sides a few years back, now made it on the album. I'm talking about tunes like Chains of Misery or Weekend Warrior, which are mediocre by the high Maiden standards. Another point to remember is that Bruce would leave after this album. I saw Bruce on his solo tour with the Tattooed Millionaire album, and he seemed to enjoy that more than making another Maiden album like Fear of the Dark, so his departure was on the horizon. I must tell you one story about the Tattooed Millionaire tour. Bruce was playing a sold-out show in a comparatively small club at the Hamburg Reeperbahn. While 500 mostly young men were waiting in a queue outside, the owner of a strip club on the other side of the street thought it must be possible to lure at least a few of them over to his club, so he sent 2 Asian girls outside to take it all off in the street. Absolutely nobody paid any attention to the naked chicks. The fans all had their minds set on the concert. If you ever wondered why Iron Maiden fans have a reputation of being more nerdy than the fans of other bands, there are reasons. When Senjutsu was released 4 years ago, I had a positive first impression, but that didn't last because I didn't actually play it a lot afterwards, not as often as other Maiden albums. Why did I grow tired of it so quickly? There are many 10-minute epics crammed onto Senjutsu, while there is a lack of short, captivating tracks, and not all of the longest pieces are well structured. The worst is Hell on Earth, which can be summarized like this: 2 minutes of calm intro, 4 minutes of leisurely bass gallop, guitar solo, another solo, from 6:45 a calm intermezzo, chorus, third guitar solo, repeat the chorus, a bit more guitar melody, and from 9:45 you get a minute and a half slowly fading out to sleep. Not once a surprising break, a burst of energy, a fresh idea, it just drags on for 11 minutes. With a title like Hell on Earth, I expected more drama or a touch of horror. Is this really the same band that crafted the chilling atmosphere of The Number of the Beast? It's not about progressive ambition or compositional growth either. It feels too schematic for that. Of course, there are also some songs that I like. Stratego rocks. The pre-release single The Writing on the Wall is convincing, and I'd recommend the most interesting of the long pieces, Death of the Celts. But altogether, that's not enough to push this album into the top 10 Maiden albums for my ranking. This album had a science fiction theme on the cover, which also showed in the stage set for the following tour. But this is not a concept album. Instead, Iron Maiden take us on a journey through various times, from the Isle of Avalon to The Man Who Would Be King, with plenty of great ideas and musical variety. Even if you play it for the 10th time, you'll discover something new. It's dragging a little in the second half, so I decided not to put it in the top 10, but it's closely following. Brave New World received a lot of praise when it was released, probably due to the enthusiasm about Bruce's return.
Let's try again, shall we?
Re-listening to it 25 years later, I would say it's a good album, delivering what we expected, but 1 or 2 steps below the Maiden classics. Some tunes like The Fallen Angel or the title track Brave New World are just happily galloping along without leaving a big impression. My favorite tracks are The Wicker Man, Out of the Silent Planet, and Blood Brothers. Killers was a step up from the debut in production quality, yet not necessarily the songs too. Purgatory and Twilight Zone, the singles promoting Killers, did not exceed Sanctuary and Running Free from the debut. Killers included old numbers which had been written years ago but didn't make it on the first album, like Another Life and Innocent Exile. New material like Prodigal Son was turning into a different direction. Paul Di'Anno wrote in his book The Beast,
"The new songs stood out, they were different. Our music was becoming more polished."
He preferred the first album, and so do I, even if Rothschild and Murders in the Rue Morgue became immortal. The latter even returned to the setlist in 2025. This was the album which made me a fan in the 80s. I had known a few songs by the band already, Run to the Hills, The Trooper, The Number of the Beast, but it was Stranger in a Strange Land, which made me realize how superior Maiden were to the other melodic power metal bands. They really had stories to tell. I read the novel that the song is based upon. While the songs are complex and remain interesting. After listening to the single, I had to get the album and saw the band live for the first time on their tour with Wasp, then bought the earlier LPs and followed them ever since. Anyhow, I can't place Somewhere in Time higher because they have some too commercial tracks on there. Wasted Years and Heaven Can Wait are too sweet for me. Other tracks fulfilled my expectations though. Caught Somewhere in Time and Alexander the Great, for instance. That makes altogether a good position in the middle of the list for this LP. The X Factor has brilliant songs like The Edge of Darkness, which quotes dialogues from Apocalypse Now, the epic tunes Sign of the Cross and Blood on the World's Hands, as well as the effective singles Lord of the Flies and Man on the Edge. The low points for me are the repetitive Fortunes of War and the less inspired Aftermath, but altogether a strong release with songs that Blaze really owns. Let's not forget, the X Factor was as early as 1995, a big step towards present-day Maiden with its more progressive songwriting that leaves Fear of the Dark or No Prayer for the Dying clearly behind. The X Factor was a very important album for Iron Maiden, darker and more ambitious than its half-hearted follow-up Virtual 11. Dance of Death was an album which didn't blow me away immediately, but slowly was growing over the years, and today I would call it the best album of its decade. Wildest Dreams is a simple fun number, actually the last time so far that they wrote a typical short and sweet 7-inch track like in the old days. But the best part of the album are the quiet, more emotional tunes. Journeyman, Passchendaele and No More Lies have a lot of feeling. The title track, Dance of Death, is a mysterious beast where the different guitarists are competing to put their stamp on it seems. In Mick Wall's book, Run to the Hills, Steve Harris said that Dance of Death proved that the reunion album Brave New World hadn't been just a cash grabber. Iron Maiden still had creative ambitions and goals. The artwork reminds me more of Cathedral than Iron Maiden, though. It's a glitch that's almost incomprehensible because artworks had always been a strong point for Iron Maiden, whether you talk about Peace of Mind or Powerslave or Somewhere in Time, so Dance of Death was a rare failure in that respect. At first glance, an album pretty similar to Senjutsu or The Final Frontier, which I ranked much lower, but The Book of Souls feels different to me because there is more tension and thrill in the songs, for example The Red and the Black or If Eternity Should Fail, the best album of recent Maiden years to me. No other Maiden album seems to have such a huge difference between A-side and B-side. Where Eagles Dare, Flight of Icarus or Die With Your Boots On are such killer tracks, and if we turn around the LP we get The Trooper, and then you can switch off because stuff like Quest for Fire or Sun and Steel is not going to improve your impression in any way.
The day started out so good.
Steve Harris said in an interview with Metal Hammer magazine that after the success of Number of the Beast, they couldn't simply repeat that and had to be a bit more experimental on Peace of Mind before they could create an album like Powerslave that tried and combined the strength of both. So despite being an iconic album, Peace of Mind doesn't belong at the very top for me. The debut album was a bit underproduced, of course, but it had one big advantage over recent Maiden albums. The songs had been played live already. They were known to work well with the audience, and at the studio they could be played straight, tight and spot on.
Just kids having fun.
In fact, Maiden had so much good material already that they could put aside some of it, like Sanctuary for the single or Rothschild for the Metal for Mothers compilation. It's always great fun to revisit the first LP with its raw power. The remaining 3 albums all could be number 1 for me, so please don't argue. Powerslave explodes with Aces High and 2 Minutes to Midnight at the beginning, ending with the amazing title track and the first huge Maiden epic, Rime of the Ancient Mariner. Dario Argento wanted Flash of the Blade for the soundtrack of his movie Phenomena because it creates such a suspense. The weakest point is probably Back in the Village, the sequel to The Prisoner, which never got as much attention as its predecessor. Let's not forget Powerslave led to the hugely successful live album Alive After Death, and thus might be considered the most important album in the band's career, on their way to the very top. Not every stop on this tour was a venue as large as a Long Beach arena, though. In an interview with Metal Hammer magazine, Bruce recalls a gig at the Shell Harbour Workers Club in Australia, where only 3 people were standing in front of the stage, he said. I don't think there is any other Maiden album for which I remember so many lines of the lyrics. I could sing along anything from The Evil That Men Do to Can I Play With Madness, listening to the album from the first to the last track and be completely absorbed by it. The very well executed serious concept story was not helped by the silly video Maiden filmed for Can I Play With Madness. I suppose they needed a bit of comic relief after the long recording sessions. Technically, this is their most flawless album, as they took lessons from Somewhere in Time by avoiding over-modernizing their sound while incorporating keyboards in just the right listener-friendly amounts. The Number of the Beast is studded with diamonds like Children of the Damned, Hallowed Be Thy Name, or Run to the Hills. Brilliant album with only Gangland somehow slipping through Martin Birch's quality control. For the 40th anniversary edition, Steve Harris replaced Gangland with Total Eclipse, the last step required to make this LP perfect. We also find The Prisoner on here, which was a tribute to the brilliant TV series. A track like 22 Acacia Avenue was a tribute to the Paul Di'Anno street credibility days, which you find less on albums like Powerslave or Seventh Son, and thus I finally decided to put this one at the top, although it was very close.